Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 237 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Erin Tillman, and if you want to know about dating advice, she is the bomb. She's the go-to girl in LA for dating advice, and she's going to tell you how she made a business out of it too. And I hope you didn't miss episode 236, an old friend of mine, Grace Daly, and she made a 30-year career with no experience just by asking questions when she was young and starting out, and came up to, she's top person in her field, and everybody turns to her for advice now in the field that she's in. So check her out later. And grab a copy of our automation ebook. It's a $27 ebook that's saved me millions and millions. Literally, one of the tips in the book saved me 7.5 million keystrokes over the years and allowed me to handle 150,000 subscribers and 40,000 customers without pulling my hair out. And you get it free for listening to Screw the Commute podcast. So check it out at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're over there, you might as well grab a copy of our podcast app. It'll do all kinds of fancy things on your cell phone or your tablets. And, you know, a lot of these apps, they just throw them at you and expect you to figure them out yourself. But in this case, we have a whole page to show you screen captures of what to do and how to use the thing so you're not lost all the time. But it's really great. You can catch that at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. All right, our sponsor is the Great Internet Marketing Retreat and Joint Venture Program, where myself and my staff work with you for a year to either get you started in an internet business or to use the internet to take your existing business to the next level. So you can check it out, and it's very unique. It's the longest one ever on this field, the most successful, 1,700 students over 20 years. Very powerful, powerful thing. And you'll see it's a very unique way I run it too, that you can get in at a relatively low entry fee compared to people at my level charging you 50 or 100 grand up front. You'll see that my method is why everybody loves this program. But check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. By the way, all the things that we talk about and any links to Erin's stuff will be at episode 237. So it's screwthecommute.com/237 are the show notes. All right, let's get to the main event. The dating advice girl, Erin Tillman, is with me. She is an inclusive dating empowerment coach, author, speaker, and media personality based in Los Angeles. And for 12 years, she's helped empower singles through workshops, matchmaking, podcasting, and her book, The Consent Guidebook. And she's contributed to Lifetime, BuzzFeed, Elle, and Men's Health, and more. Erin, are you ready to screw the commute?
See, I almost messed up again. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping you would. So there we go. So you're in LA right now, right? La La Land.
I am.
Yeah.
I love La La Land. It's a beautiful 60-some degrees out and sunny, of course.
Of course. It's a little chilly here today, but we had 70 last week. So I'm in southeastern Virginia. Is not we don't get much snow or anything like that. So I gave it up. I used to live up north, and you can have my share of all the snow. And well, you just had an avalanche in California. Did you know that today?
No, what?
Lake Tahoe, the California side had an avalanche on the bunny slope. I mean,
oh no!
Yeah, somebody died, and somebody's probably heads are going to roll because they are supposed to blast those avalanches every morning so that nobody gets hurt. So it's a big mess. It's happening right as we speak. But
that's so scary. Yeah. Oh no! Oh.
Yeah. So what I hate about skiing is when a little 3-year-old kid stops to ask me if I'm all right. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually been. I've gone to Lake Tahoe. I've been to Big Bear, but I've never actually skied.
Of course, you're
Because
the
I'm
one
kind
that
of
sits at the fire with your feet up and all the guys are chasing you around. Of course.
yeah, yo, that's right, Tom. With the hot cocktail, I love a
Yeah.
hot toddy.
There
I
you
love a
go.
warm. Why not? I
Of
don't want to get
course.
hurt and injured.
Hey,
No,
if
no.
I look like you, I'd do the same thing. I'd never work a day in my life if I was a hot looking babe from LA.
Hey,
So
well, thanks. I mean, as we're about to talk about, I work super hard and I look good doing it. So
there you go. All right. Well, that's even better. So tell everybody what you do now, and then we'll take you back to see how you got here.
Okay, cool. An inclusive. Let's take that back.
What does that mean exactly? Inclusive dating club. I mean, you don't kick,
Yeah.
you don't kick anybody out.
Kinda, actually. Yeah, I mean, I think the word inclusive is thrown out quite a bit, or thrown around quite a bit. For me, it means that growing up in a small town in Ohio, I grew up very mainstream vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
You date someone, you marry them, you have a
Right.
baby, all the things, right? And so, in my journey of 12 years, I've come to know a lot of different kinds of relationships, non-traditional relationships, polyamorous relationships, BDSM, kink related relationships, the LGBTQ community. So I truly am trying to be an inclusive dating coach. So not just cater to one group or another. So even in all of this eclecticness that I do, I still have tips for mainstream vanilla monogamous people too. So I truly am inclusive.
When I do my internet marketing seminars, I show a bunch of different membership sites, and I ask people, well, can you think you can compete with Match.com? And everybody says, no, heck no, we can't. But all these different niche dating sites are up. They have like tall people date and short people date, and they actually have clown dating, and they have gluten-free singles.
Right.
So yes, there's all kinds of smaller markets.
Farmers only,
Oh, farmers. Yep. Farmers only. So I was thinking maybe starting with serial killers date, something like that.
No, I mean, I think they're already in the mix.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
I've heard some horror stories.
So how's it work? So people call you up, you do a one-on-one group membership. How's it work?
So I basically started not really as a business. And I think that's made my journey extra interesting and extra confusing at times, because I started off as a blog. So let's go back in our minds, back in time to around 2007, 2008, when YouTube was starting and all the apps were starting, right? This is pre-Tinder, pre-Instagram. I think Facebook was starting or was around. There weren't, Match.com was definitely around. But there weren't a lot of the digital platforms that we have now. So I started this rudimentary blog on GoDaddy.com, just basically typing my opinions about why there are double standards between men and women, cisgendered men, cisgendered women, when it comes to dating and sex. Like, why is it like, oh yeah, bro, go and like screw who you want, and then ladies, oh no, she's a slut. Like, what? And so I was basically writing my opinions about that. It started that way. And so it evolved over the 12 years, though, to become part coaching, one-on-one coaching. So I get a lot of clients who are newly divorced. Maybe they were married for 20 years.
Yikes.
And it's a whole new world with dating and, like we said, digital platforms. So they literally have no idea where to begin, or what app to use, or how to set up an app, or how to message people, all of that stuff. So I help with the basics. Okay. My business is based around the early few months of dating.
Now,
so
do you help them with clothing and stuff like that, or do you turn them over to our friend Rain?
I was just going to say, so Rain and I, who was on an episode of your podcast.
Rain Parvis, everybody. Yeah.
Rain Parvis, everybody. Yes. She's a personality too. She's a huge character. I love her. She's great. She will sometimes team up, and she's really great at making people over. So I've also teamed up with photographers if people want to get some like really nice pictures, if they've never had a really good picture. I mean, I think selfies are always best, because people want to see what you really look like without a bunch of lighting. But also, if someone wants to have a cool shot, there's photographers who do that too for dating profiles. So it evolved to one-on-one coaching, speaking at colleges around dating safety and dating app safety. The Me Too movement happened. consent was heavily brought back into my brand, as you can imagine, because that goes hand in hand a lot of times with dating. Yeah, and then I mean, I've consulted with dating apps at this point. I do some television stuff. I do some radio stuff. I wrote a book 2 years ago called the Consent Guidebook. So I kind of do everything, Tom. It's crazy.
You made a whole career out of this now, which is what we're talking about here. Is you're screwing the commute as much as possible in LA, because just going for a hamburger, you 8 hours, round trip,
Exactly.
Oh man.
Exactly. There's always some sort of traffic happening, like 1 a.m. on a Sunday.
What part of town do you live?
I'm actually in the Los Feliz, Silver Lake area near Griffith Park, near the Griffith Observatory.
What are the main roads through there?
Sunset, Vermont, Hollywood Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm near Dodger Stadium, actually. Not far from Dodger Stadium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, where's the Hollywood Bowl?
The Hollywood Bowl is not far. That's in Hollywood, so a little bit west of me.
Yeah,
so my area is just a little bit east of Hollywood.
Now, when we're on the East Coast, or kind of the rest of the world is getting some really nasty pictures of LA with homelessness and, filth and disease and everything. Are you, what do you say about that? Does that happen, or are you just not where you are?
No, it's a massive problem. And luckily, finally, it seems like our city is trying to address it and really admit that there's a massive problem.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story, actually, Tom. So I'm dating somebody and he's white.
And he's homeless?
We're walking down. He's not homeless.
Oh, he doesn't poop on the street or anything?
No.
That's good.
No. Well, listen, I have high standards. High standards. No. But so yesterday we went for breakfast in my neighborhood. We're walking back to my apartment, and a homeless guy stopped us. He gave me a kiss, and a homeless guy stopped us and said, N-word kissing. Why do you know? See that?
He's not inclusive, is he?
And not inclusive. And it's but he was clearly a homeless man. And I'm this is, and I live in a very, not to be weird, but I live in a really nice area.
Mm-hmm.
It's $1 million house area. It's really nice. It's rampant in every part of the city. That's a whole other podcast, though. It really is a problem. Yes, absolutely.
Well, isn't it? I thought $1 million house was slumming it in LA.
Multi-million dollar. I know, exactly. Multi-million.
Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, were you in any danger? Just no.
Weird? Well, luckily, I'm very lucky that my guy's very chivalrous, and he's also 6'2". So he saw it coming, sort of, and kind of made himself put a barrier between us. But honestly, it's really, anyways, we're getting way off topic. But just on a personal note, it was really weird. Even growing up in a small conservative town in Ohio. This was the first. I've never had that happen, thrown at me like that before. Never.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
But the reason I bring it up is because, it does affect dating. I mean, there's safety issues in dating, and places you do want to go and you don't want to go, and all that stuff. I wonder.
Well, and so I'm glad you brought it up, because like I said, I'm choosing well with the person I'm dating.
Yeah.
I mean, he snapped into action immediately, and we've not been in a situation like that before. And so it was really cool. I mean, I've definitely dated people in the past where if something were to happen, or if it was a bar fight or something, they would freak out and kind of leave me hanging. Right. And it's oh man. So it was a nice, we've been dating for a little while, but it was a really nice quote unquote test of what would he do in a dangerous scenario? And his instincts kicked in, and he went and protected me. It was beautiful.
Well, so here's the thing, Erin. I'm not bragging or anything. I happen to know what women want. All right.
Oh my God. I can't wait. Tom,
I can't wait. It's security. All right. And
True.
you know how I know? Because every time I approach one in a bar, she starts yelling, "Security, security." Get rid of.
Okay. That's pretty good.
All right. So how long you normally work with a person?
So it depends on what the person's looking for. I've had a lot of clients that are one-off clients, meaning they're oh, I just want the basics. I just need a basic framework for where to begin. There's a lot, and those clients are usually a little bit younger. They're a little savvier with the dating process. They've been dating for a while. They've had partners. But then there's a couple other categories of people that I coach that are, like I said before, brand new. They've been out of the game for years. It's a whole new world in terms of the digital platforms.
Right.
Where do I begin? Those people do typically like an ongoing thing, like, because my sessions are only an hour at a time. So there's only so much you can cover, right? So, one session might be, first of all, getting clear on what your dating and relationship goals are. Because a lot of people are not clear about what they're looking for. And a lot of people are like, oh, I just like a nice person, but they're not remembering or thinking that there's all different kinds of ways to date and all different kinds of relationships people are looking for. Like I said earlier, polyamory, non-traditional things, traditional thing, like you gotta be clear. And a lot of people have not taken the time to think about that. So that's step one. And then how to find those people, step two. And then all the like specific details of dating app profiles and things are step three.
Now, what kind of percent? I mean, is it still a bulk of the percentage is just vanilla, or a lot of these other non-traditionals, really taken over?
Well, okay. So for me, like I know a lot of the dating coaches in LA. A lot of us have a niche. My niche, as I said, is inclusivity. So I do a lot of things that aren't necessarily traditional. So you have to imagine most of my clients that come to me are more non-traditional.
I see.
Right. But having said that, I do get a lot of straight, heterosexual, monogamous minded people as well. But I'd say
that's gotta be boring for you.
No, but you know what's funny? Tom? Like everyone at the fundamental basic level, we all want the same thing. We all want to find somebody who we can have fun with, who gets us, who listens to us, that we might want to share life with. Even whether that's a short-term thing or a long-term thing, we all want the basics. So whether it's something, more out there in terms of like adventurousness or something that's more traditional, boil it down. Everyone's looking for the same thing. So it's really not that difficult. But what my non-traditional clients like is that they do feel a little more safe with me. They know that I'm not going to judge them. If they tell me that they're into, like the movie Cats is out right now, and there's a whole joke about people who are furries, who dress up like animals,
right.
And that's their thing. I'm not going to judge that client. I will direct them point them in the direction of where to meet other people like this without judgment. So I get those clients, and they're always very grateful. No one wants to be judged for whatever they're into.
No, I get it. But I thought you said when everybody wants the same thing, you were going to say something like, okay, I want a rich cougar that's got a big yacht. And so I guess that's not the standard, I guess.
I live in Los Angeles. There is some of that element too sometimes. I've had a few clients who literally are like, I want somebody who's wealthy. And that's not gender specific. I've had some guys say that too.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Right. So,
but CSI did a whole episode on that. I forget which one it was. Maybe Miami, but on the people dressing up in like big bear and bunny costumes and rubbing against each other and stuff like that.
Right. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Hey, if they're into it and they're consensual about it and everyone's on board, Godspeed.
I might try it. I don't know. If they can find a bunny costume that'll fit me, I'll give it a try.
I guarantee there's one out there on the internet somewhere for you.
So tell us about the business of this. Like, do you sell packages or go by the hour? Or how does the business end of this actually work?
Right. So, I mean, most of my clients in the past, my business has been mostly hourly based. So people reach out to me. I'm on Yelp. I've got some great reviews on Yelp, or they'll find me through my website, or I'm very active on social media. So through one of those platforms, someone will message me. I'll give them my rates. They'll tell me what they're having trouble with, and then we'll set up an hour session. Now, sometimes people out the gate will say, I know that I want multiple sessions with you. So I'll give them a package deal if that's the case.
Right. Okay.
There's always different tiers of what I do. I also do speaking. So if I'm speaking at a college or a convention, there's a whole package and rate attached to that, So, so it just depends on what I'm doing. And then if I do television, that's a whole other package.
Now, do you actually get college students that want time with you?
Yes, but the college kids are usually in a workshop form. So it's less one-on-one with the college kids. Usually it's a group format. Yeah. Got it.
And so the last time I talked to you, you were on on a TV set somewhere. One of the
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my hands in a lot of pots, and I do have some connections to television. I was doing something at Netflix last weekend, so I got to be kind of quiet about
Yeah, I
those
get it. I
things
get
that
it.
are still brewing. But yeah, I'm in the mix, Tom. I'm making things happen.
I get
Trying
it.
to.
I get it. So what's in the future? Any big projects
So
coming up?
yeah, so I'm actually going to speak at a huge women LGBT focused convention in Vegas in April called Klexicon,
Mm-hmm.
and it's huge. So there's a lot of actresses, like people from like TV shows you know and love, will be there, and then there's a lot of panel discussions around inclusivity, around women's issues, around consent. So I'm presenting a panel on consent, and I have some colleagues up there, and then I'm actually doing another panel on podcasting, Tom,
Oh,
which
no
is
kidding.
great. Yes,
Yeah.
because I've had a podcast. I didn't mention I've had a podcast for 7 years. So it's funny
Wow.
because we could actually talk a long time about that. The fact that I started a podcast before podcasts were even starting, and so I was on the forefront of it 7 years ago, before there were like 700,000
Right.
podcasts
A day.
So it was like, oh, right. So there
Yeah.
were only a few of us. It was like, I think in terms of a dating podcast, it was like me, Dan Savage, and a couple others, but there weren't that many. So I was really getting access to a lot of things. And now it's like so competitive. I mean, it's like there's podcast networks and producers and
Right.
managers. And it's a whole other game now. And so I've really, in my like business wise, over the last 12 years and the last 7 with the podcast, I've really had to pay attention to what's changing and what's happening to remain current and not be left out of a loop because I'm not paying attention to what's happening.
Absolutely.
You know?
All right, so
Yeah,
let's
it's
take
really
you
important.
back. Were you entrepreneurial as a little kid? Entrepreneurial parents or what?
Yeah, well, my parents, my dad, okay, let's be honest. My dad is a super entrepreneur, always has been, I mean, my whole life at least. He's in the insurance business, but then on the side, he's a mover and a shaker. He's super social like I am. He's super talkative like I am. He's like head of different organizations or on different committees for insurance stuff and
What kind
whatever.
of insurance does he sell?
He does, I don't know what the category is, but he does everything. Like he does business, he does personal, he does like auto, home, all the things.
See,
right?
I used to have a bartender that was selling life insurance on the side. I said, this is easy. The day before you go for your appointment, you just call in a death threat to the people. And then when you come in the next day, it's an easy sell. You know, I don't know if that's, I don't know if you're allowed to do it.
Right. It's got the feeling you might need life insurance. Let me help you. Right. So yeah, I get that from him. My mom is a retired professor with her doctorate. Super. So I come from parents that are high achievers, and I always had a strong work ethic because of them. And but I always have been someone who's very much like, oh my gosh, I'm adventurous. I want to go try new things. I want to succeed. I have that in me as well.
Well, what was your first business?
My first business. Well, my first job.
First business. Did you like lemonade stand and all that stuff when you were a kid?
I mean, not really.
Okay.
Not really. I don't have a good answer for that, to be honest.
All right.
I mean, I've had a lot of jobs in my life, though, from a young age.
Okay.
For sure.
Like what was what were one of the early ones?
Well, one of the jobs that comes to mind is I worked at Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay.
And I dressed up in the Chucky costume a few times, which was really fun. Yeah, that was a fun job for like a teenager.
Well, do you know?
Like,
well, guess what? I don't think you know all of my background, but I owned a entertainment company in Washington, D.C. called Prank Masters. We custom designed practical jokes, and we did Gorillagram stuff. So I've done more Gorillagrams than anybody you know. Guaranteed. All right. And then
Gorillagrams, awesome.
I went to Santa school because I hated my mother, so I didn't want to go home on Christmas. So I went to Santa school, and I can't make it home. I got to work,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's a great business. That's a great business.
I mean, it was a lot of fun, those Gorillagrams, but I also did an over-the-hill preacher. So I would come in when people turned 30 and 40 and do a last will and testament for him. So it's,
Oh,
yeah, we did 4,000 jobs. I was on radio and TV all over the world, just having a blast, writing custom humor and doing stuff. So yeah,
oh, I had no idea. That's great.
Not, I mean, it's not as famous as Chuck E. Cheese, so I know that.
Yeah, but you get the business. You get it. You totally get it. Of course.
Yeah. So then what?
So Chuck E. Cheese to working as like in like little local cafes when I was like growing up in small town Ohio, cut to going to college and working at the local actually I worked as a wardrobe assistant in the theater department at college.
Okay.
I also lived in Europe for a while during college. Yeah, and that was cool because I knew I wanted to get into entertainment and the entertainment business in some way. And so when I lived in London for a while, and I lived in northern France for a while.
Oh, wow.
And in London, I worked at a few different theaters in the West End, just as like the candy, like refreshments girl. It was the best job, Tom. It was the best. So, imagine 19-year-old Erin in Europe by herself, living the life, doing this job that wasn't super, super, super serious. So I could just party it up in Europe. It was the best. It was the best. It was so great. So much fun.
And you could always say, I worked in London theater,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely.
All right. So you came home eventually.
Okay. So, you want the whole timeline. Okay. So, so I did that. Yeah, let's do it. So, I did that at junior year of college, came back, graduated from University of Dayton in Ohio, which is where I went to school. And really, I always knew I was going to leave Ohio. I just always loved a big city. I just knew there was more. I was, again, adventurous.
Oh, well, you had Columbus to go to.
There was always Columbus, which is a great, great city, but I was thinking bigger. Bigger,
All right.
So after I came home from Europe back in Ohio, I was like, I really, really am ready to leave Ohio. So it was either going to be New York or LA. I chose LA because of the entertainment business, television, film in particular, and the weather. I was like, that's the place. I moved out to LA not knowing anybody. The traditional story of I had a little money, but not much money. I packed my car up. One of my friends came with me, drove all my stuff out to LA, found an apartment, and then jumped in to extra work to learn about the television business because I knew something about theater. I knew nothing about TV and learned everything I know. Like I said, I've done some stuff in television, learned everything just by being on sets and asking questions and being professional and learning.
Right.
And like I said, I'm a self-starter. I'm definitely super ambitious and a go-getter. And so I've learned a lot on my own, not through schooling. I was a business major, by the way. So international business and French major. And so, I think that school is really important. College especially is very important. But also, I don't think it's the only way to learn. And so, if you've got the passion and a drive to learn, you don't necessarily need schooling. I'm not talking about like being a doctor, of course. Or
right.
Something.
Yeah. You need college for certain things, but
right.
Nowadays, I got a whole thing on how they're ripping people off like crazy, and the student debt is out of sight, and they're competing for jobs at Starbucks.
Well, not to mention, Tom. So I was a marketing international business major in college, and marketing, I graduated a long time ago, let's say. But I graduated before social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a marketing degree and social media wasn't even in existence yet, I didn't learn any of that in school. So everything, I'm very, very savvy with social media because I've kind of nerded out on it in my adult years here in LA. And so I've just taught myself. I've learned from other people. I've taken some classes out here, workshops. You've got, like I said, it's really important. This is to the listeners. It's so important to stay current. And there's a lot of people I know who have been in whatever business they've been in for a long time, and they're kind of resistant to change and resistant to like learning the new things, and the new digital stuff is too difficult, or I don't want to have to do that. And you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. The world is moving. And if you're going to be left behind if you don't jump on board, that's just the truth of it.
Yeah. And a trick I use to hire people, is I don't want the 55-year-old MBA that's clueless about all the internet and social media stuff to apply to my company. So I use Craigslist ads and I write paid internship. And so that makes none of the MBAs, older people want to apply for an internship. They're too good for it. So I don't have to deal with them. So,
you know what's so funny about that, Tom?
What?
So we were talking about UCLA earlier.
Yeah.
So I took a few media classes at UCLA, just the summer classes, I was like in my mid-20s. And I actually ended up, through that, I was able to be an intern at one of the biggest radio stations here in LA, Kiss FM, for a little bit because I took those classes. So I was the oldest intern there, but I didn't effing care because I was there to learn.
Right.
And I have young energy anyway, so I fit in with those kids, whatever.
Perfect. So tell everybody about your book and, what's it called? The Consent something?
Yes. My book is called The Consent Guidebook. And it is available on all the digital platforms. It's also available on paperback too. It's on Amazon, it's on Google Books, on iBook. The website is theconsentguidebook.com. And basically the book, if I break it down, it's basically a practical, easily digestible guide to boundaries and consent in this Me Too era. So, when the Me Too movement happened, just really quickly, when the Me Too movement happened, like the height of it, when people were being accused of things and all these things, I think that a lot of us were surprised that a lot of this had been going on to the extent that it had. I think that some of us who work around dating relationship in the dating relationship industry, so to speak, weren't as surprised because we hear stories from our clients, right? Especially some of my therapist friends. I think that the veil was lifted in terms of how we made assumptions that everyone just knows about boundaries and everyone's on the same page in terms of what they learned in sex ed around consent. Like most of us, I mean, I think about my sex ed, like we didn't learn much about consent. That wasn't even a thing. Wait
do you hear about mine? I'll tell you here.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Oh yeah. So it's one of those things where, in 2018, back in 2018, 2017, I mean, I think a lot of things were revealed that, clearly we need more education around this stuff. And even whatever someone feels about the way all that stuff went down, I mean, I'm on the side of if someone's making an effort to make amends and just be better, I think we should be able to reintegrate those people back in society, back into their careers and all the things, right?
But this book sounds like it'd be a great gift for grandparents and parents to give to their kids
and in the book, and in the book there's, I mean, it's not just sexual boundaries, it's getting to know your own boundaries, it's boundaries with friends and family, it's how to have an awkward conversation with someone if they've crossed your boundaries. There's resources if your boundaries have been crossed, like what do you do? Like there's a lot of shame attached to, especially for men, if their boundaries have been crossed in a way, there's so much shame for guys to come up and say something about it always. And so this book is just like a crash course guide for people with under the umbrella of all the things, boundaries and consent.
So I'm telling people out there, buy 10 copies and give it to people that you know in your life, the young people that need this, because this is a critical thing. So let me tell you my whole sex education in like, I don't know, 8 seconds.
I can't wait.
So my dad is old school, came from Syria on a cattle boat, and he's never said a word about it. And one day, I remember this vividly, and it was 54 years ago. And he looks at me and he looks all nervous, and he wasn't the kind of guy that's nervous ever.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he says, "Tom, come here. I want to talk to you." "Okay, Dad, what do you want?" And he said, "I got to tell you something." "Yeah, Dad, what do you need?" He said, "When your beep gets hard," I'm beeping myself here. "When your beep gets hard, your brain gets soft. That's all I'm saying." That was my whole sex education.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it did stick. It did stick with me all these years, So.
I mean, he wasn't wrong.
I know.
He wasn't wrong. So,
all right, so tell people if they want to work with you, where do they go to see the packages and to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Yeah. So go to my website, thedatingadvicegirl.com. Thedatingadvicegirl.com is my website. You can also find me on Yelp. For those of you in LA, it's a little easier. Just search dating coach. I'm heavily searchable on Google. Erin Tillman or the Dating Advice Girl. And
spell
also
it for them. Spell your name for them.
Yes, ERIN Tillman, TILLMAN. So search me, you'll find me there. I'm the only dating coach with that name. And I'll pop up if you type in dating coach. I'll pop up pretty high up on the list on Google. But also, I'm super active, like I said, on social media. So if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, search Dating Advice Girl. You'll find me. Send me a direct message and I'll reply.
Isn't that great? And you almost slipped and said dirty just a second ago. And so if you type in dirty old man, then you'll find me.
I'm in.
Okay. So thanks so much for coming on, Erin. Tell Rain we said hi. Rain's our good friend from LA, and she called you her boss bestie or something like that, or bestie boss babe, something like that.
Something like that. We just, what all that means is that we're ladies that are hustling and entrepreneurial and not giving up and trying to make it happen.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah. So everybody check the show notes. If you need some dating advice, and you don't have to just work in LA, right? You can do this distance with Skype
No, we can do Skype meetings, Zoom meetings, a phone meeting, all the things.
Right. All right, so check it out. All the links will be in the show notes, folks. And we thank Erin for coming on and sitting out of traffic, which is nice, and sitting in her nice 70-degree weather and dodging her homeless people pooping on the street. And she came to talk to us. So thanks a lot, Erin.
That's right. Brilliant summary. Thanks for having me, Tom.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you all on the next episode. See you later.